Well, hey everybody. Good to see you out there. Got 5 people in the room already. John already saying hello. Good morning, John. Good to see you. Always happy to be here on Saturday morning. Today's going to be a pretty, I think, easy episode for us to do. We're going to be talking about our topic is going to be taken from Joe C's book, Beyond Belief: Agnostic Musings for 12-Step Life, and those always turn out really well. So that's what we're going to be doing. But before we get into that, we might take a look back at last week to see how the conference went. And so I'll bring Mary out to talk about that and anything else you guys want to chat about along the way. Put your comments in the live chat, or you can call us at our toll free number. I'll go ahead and put that up now. Actually, I always like to see those things under the. Okay, here we go. I'm bringing Mary in. Hi, Mary.
Hey, John, how are you?
I'm good. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
So, how do you think last week went?
Great.
I
I
thought
loved
so.
it. I thought it went better than I could have imagined.
Good.
Yeah, I
Good.
had fun. It was a action-packed Saturday and Sunday for those of you that weren't at the International Conference of Secular AA. It was a wonderful success, I feel. I learned a
Good.
lot.
Yeah, that's good. I didn't go to very many of the sessions. I actually none of the sessions other than the one that we did. But I'll have to watch it on tape. Got some people to say hello to. Barb is in the room, Bobbert's in the room, Christine's in the room, and Walker is there. Hello, guys. Good to see y'all. Thank you for being here. So I was pleasantly surprised. I'll have to ask you about the things that you went to, but I was pleasantly surprised about our live stream. I didn't think that we were going to get much of a crowd, honestly, because we were there the same time as the main event, and I didn't think but we had a really good crowd. We had like 20 some people, I think, regularly all throughout on Zoom, and then we had about the same number of people in the live stream.
Oh, I
Hi,
had no
Diggs.
idea. I had
I
no
know.
idea that many
Yeah,
people were there. Okay.
yeah. So that was nice, and not only that, they both in both places, Zoom and on YouTube, everybody was contributing. Hi, Michelle. Everybody was contributing, and then afterwards on Zoom, we hung out for a while and chatted, and they stayed through that entire time. I think we had like an hour and a half or whatever more. I don't know what it was,
We
but they
did
stayed,
hour and a half.
yeah, a long time that they stayed there. So I think that went really well. I am sorry that the people that watched on YouTube couldn't hear while the people on Zoom were talking.
Mhm.
I could have Zoom. I could have streamed from Zoom to YouTube, but to do that, I really needed to get into their Zoom account so I could put the settings in there, and I didn't really have time to do that. So we did it this way. So next time we do this, we'll either do that, or the people in Zoom just won't be able to talk. They'll have to type in like we do in the live chat, or call in on the phone number. Do it that way. But yeah, I thought it went really well. I was very happy with that.
I was really happy with it, and it was easy, just like our normal Saturdays are. To me,
Yep.
it was very easy, and I remember you asked me, "What is recovery?"
Mm.
And I remember thinking, "I don't know how to answer that." And since then, I've been answering it in my head a million different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know how you don't think of the perfect answer at the time, and then
Right.
later yeah. So, that was a wonderful question.
Hmm. I like
Yeah.
that question too. I think about it a lot, and probably my idea of it is going to change. Hey, Rich,
Yeah.
good to see you. As we go on. So, tell me about some of the other events that you attended there.
Well, I loved, the, of course, I loved the women's panel that I helped put together. That was on at 5 o'clock on Sunday. But before that, I saw the Secular Al-Anon meeting, from Kansas City, from Lawrence,
Cool.
Kansas. They were
No.
awesome. That was a wonderful meeting. And, I listened to, since I wasn't present, but I've listened
Mm,
to a couple of recordings that aren't out yet, but we're working on it, to the, neurodivergence panel
mm,
about, everything from autism to ADHD to OCD,
mhm.
different ways that people, brain chemistry works, and the speakers were fantastic. And Xander put that together, and Mike G from Atlanta, and it was just fascinating. I could listen to them all day. I went to the board meetings. I went to the meet the board members, and then on Sunday I went to let's talk about new board members,
Mhm.
and that was interesting because I had never met the board members before,
Right.
so
Right.
that was good. Um, what I really wanted to get to was the Paris ones. I
Mhm.
did go to the Hong Kong meeting where they had 2 speakers that were wonderful, but I didn't go to the plant-based recovery one. If anybody did go to that, let me know how that went.
Yeah.
I'll be listening to these recordings later
Yeah,
and
be
all of
interesting to listen to
these.
those.
Yeah, and I didn't hear Schauberg speak about, unpacking the doctor's opinion.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I didn't go to that, so I couldn't really speak to that. Um,
I need to finish his book. I have to actually start it all over again. I'm gonna read that damn thing. I mean,
it's
I
so
s
huge. I have
it's
it too.
it's
It's
intimidating.
like that big.
It's huge, but I
It's
know a lot of it in the back are is the reference material and stuff, and I think that they're thick pages with big print, I don't know. But anyway, I gotta read that book because I wanna have him as a guest on the podcast, and, because he is a he's a really important historian, I think, for Alcoholics Anonymous and recovery in general.
Mhm.
He's come up with history in that book that was not revealed or written about before.
Yes.
So he's got some interesting insights that has not been heard before, and I would like to have him on to talk about that. But I need to read his damn book first. I will never have an author on if I haven't read their book.
Right.
So
Yeah,
I
as
got to
you
read
should.
that.
So you
Yeah.
better put the date for, like, 8 months from now
Hmm.
and give yourself time to read it.
Oh, I did say I didn't go to anything other than our live stream, but I did go to the Afternoon with the Atheist. I did go see that one, and I thought that went really well. They were just basically presenting their how they understand recovery as atheists, basically. And, none of them interpreted the steps. In fact, they didn't like that, which is fine. But they had like John had like a slight John C from Paris had like a slideshow where he had some different bullet points of things that were important to him in recovery. And I thought they were all great bullet points and things that I agree. I find important to me as well. So I liked his presentation particularly, and then Vic gave a really smooth presentation. John Huey did a really good job. So it was nice. I thought it was well done. Then people asked questions afterwards. I didn't say anything, I don't think, but yeah, that was okay.
Yeah, I look forward to hearing that one also.
Yeah, yeah.
And I wanna hear step 6 and 7 that was translated into Spanish,
Mm,
and, I guess I went to the last meeting on Saturday night, which I'm not even sure where that was, but that was good. And, yeah, and I was just happy to get the women's panel. I was so nervous about it. I was just happy that I had a great group of women to talk to bounce off questions with. So we did the question thing like we did in the live stream,
yeah.
and it just seemed that everybody was, you know, did a great job, and I was happy about that. And then the closing ceremony was around 8. I think there was a meeting after that, I'm not sure what it was. I was
Hmm.
pretty much sitting at this table looking at this computer all weekend.
I know. I've done that before. It's too much for me to do that. It's really tiring to spend that much time on a screen.
It was great. I loved it because in previous conventions, I've only been able to host the hospitality room,
Yeah.
so I wasn't seeing anything in real time, and this year I
Right.
was seeing things in real time. It was
That's
awesome.
nice.
Yeah,
That's nice. Well, someone on
awesome.
Facebook has said that they got the Audible version of Writing the Big Book and liked it.
Oh.
But they're going to get the actual book and says it's not as hard to read as Not God. I read Not God. I thought that was a very good book by Ernest Kurtz, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. So if I could read that, and if this one isn't as hard as that, then I should be able to get through it okay then.
Thank
So,
you for telling me that. I love listening to books,
mm,
so I'll look for that.
yeah, I might wanna try that myself. I typically don't listen to books. I've tried it before, and I seem to do better reading it for comprehension than
Yeah,
I get distracted if I'm just listening to it. But I might be able to train myself to listen, you know? It might be an enjoyable thing to do to sit down with a cup of coffee, just relax and listen, and really focus on what they're saying. That's
yes.
the thing for me. I just have to focus, you know?
Yeah, I'm
So,
much more of an audible learner than I am the visual. Yeah.
yep.
But one thing that I loved about this conference, well, besides being on the planning committee and just having like a team building thing, and we all went from how is this going to happen to wow, it happened and it was great. I learned about a lot about tolerance and love, which is what I believe that AA stands for. And I had to broaden my understanding of love and tolerance as a part
Mm,
of being in the planning committee personally myself. So I had to stretch open my heart to accept things. There were some things that I was like, "How is this on an AA conference?"
Right.
And it helped me see where I was being rigid or where I was not creating a space at the table for other people. Just like secular AA doesn't have a space at the table sometimes in
Right.
wider AA communities.
Right.
And so I really had to look at my own personal ability to accept, to love, and to tolerate new ideas. And I feel as that I've grown as a person
That's
from
good.
that. Yeah, it was very helpful to me to just see where I'm stuck. I can espouse love and tolerance all day, but where am I stuck? How does that relate?
So, in the business meeting, did they decide if they were gonna have an in-person conference and where it might be?
They decided they were going to have an in-person conference, but I don't know. There were a couple cities that were thrown in, but I didn't. It When I left, they had not decided.
Okay.
They had not
Okay.
decided that, but a couple cities were Asheville.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Dale put in Asheville, which would
Very
be awesome
nice.
for me. I
Beautiful,
would love
beautiful
it.
place.
Awesome. It's
Mhm.
like the Santa Cruz of the South, and it's in the mountains. And then
Yeah.
also, I think Hong Kong was one of them.
Oh my gosh.
I could be wrong on that, but I think it was. No, it was Las Vegas.
Las
Sorry,
Vegas. Okay.
Las Vegas.
That'd
Someone
be
said,
fun.
as default, Vegas.
I haven't been there in a long time.
Yeah. So I don't think that has those have been reached yet.
Yeah.
There were a lot of things going on in both meetings that
Mhm.
took longer than normal to get to
Yep.
those conclusions.
Barb would
But
like to
they're
go to
all new.
Asheville.
There's 6 new board members. So there'll be a whole new level of energy coming into that. And Asheville,
Good.
yeah, I love Asheville too. It's awesome.
My uncle had a place in Asheville, and just before I got married, I spent over a week with him. I drove down there from Kansas City, and he had a cabin up in the mountains, and so I got to spend a lot of time in Asheville, and exploring the area, and I loved it. I thought it was great. So,
It's
that's
a
really a
wonderful
beautiful
city,
place.
and
It
it has
is.
the best food in the world. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't eat too much of the food. I think I was eating at his place, but then I went from there to Charleston.
Oh,
They
yeah.
have good food over there.
Yeah, they do. That's my
Really good
hometown.
food.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. And I actually are you from Charleston originally?
Yeah, I am.
I'll be damned. I did not know that.
Yep. Sullivan's Island. I'm a
Oh,
Sullivan's Island
wow.
girl. Yep.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
I have roots going back there. My grandmother is from Charleston, but we can talk
You're
about that
kidding.
offline
Oh, yeah,
sometime.
we need to talk about that. We need to talk about that.
She's from
Yeah,
Lockwood, and I love my grandmother so much. Anyway, so, and Charleston's a beautiful city. I
it
love
is.
and I'll have to go back there again sometime, but I enjoyed that drive from Asheville to Charleston.
Yes.
Really, really pretty, and, I saw some interesting sights there along the way too. We'll have to talk about that sometime offline because we got other
Okay,
stuff to
good.
talk
Yeah,
about.
we got other stuff lined up.
We gotta talk about recovery and the topic of the day. So, what is the topic of the day? And Bree says that she was just joking about Hong Kong. Okay, so now let's look at the topic of the day. We're going to be talking about freedom of choice that we have now that we're in recovery. And it's going to be taken from Joe C's reading, from today's reading from the book Beyond Belief, Agnostic Musings for 12-Step Life. I think it's a great topic. When I think about, what my life was like when I was drinking and what my life is like now, I have more control. I have more power to make choices and control my life than I did when I was drinking. Absolutely. Does that mean I'm really good at it? No, not all the time, but I have the freedom that I did not have when drinking. And I know if I drank, that's the way it would be. But anyway, let's be Joe's reading first and then we'll get into it. That was just a little intro. That was a teaser. That was a teaser. Okay, here we go. I'm sorry. Oh my God. I mean, let me share a screen with you guys here.
So you're gonna read the whole thing?
Yeah, I'll read it.
Okay.
So let me do a screen share. There you go. There we go. So you guys can hopefully y'all can see that. I know a lot of you don't even watch the video, which is fine. So I'll just go ahead and read it. So this is from the November 5th reading from Beyond Belief Agnostic Musings for 12-Step Life. And it goes, here's the first part. The first part is a quote from the big book. We have ceased fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol, for by this time sanity will have returned. We will seldom be interested in liquor. If tempted, we will recoil from it as from a hot flame. We react sanely and normally, and we will find that this has happened automatically. And that's from the big book, Alcoholics Anonymous, page 84 and 85. Hi, Lola. Good to see you. Welcome back. Wonderful to have you here. So now we'll do the reading part from Joe C. So that was the big book part from Bill W. Now we'll read Joe's part. Okay. With few exceptions, during the early months of recovery, we boycott people, places, and things that tempt or trigger us. No matter what spell addiction or codependence had on us, the day will come when we will be free to go where we want and to do what we want. Some members prefer 12 and 12 rooms for their social lives while demonizing places, activities, and friends they consider bad influences. Don't fly with the crows if you don't want to be shot at, is a mantra for many. It may be that the lifestyle associated with our old haunts just has no appeal anymore. But eventually, if our sports team wins big and everyone wants to celebrate, we can go have fun without feeling out of place. Maybe our favorite musical act is performing at a place where we have had a bad experience. Maybe family get togethers can be triggering. We talk it through with a friend or take a friend along. If we are unsure, we meditate on it or take a rain check. Some of us get all worked up before an outing into a slippery place, and we do fine, but then find our guards down a day or two later. Our minds play tricks with us. It's like a delayed reaction. Freedom means having my choices back about people, places, and behavior. Do I see my recovery do I see that my recovery gives me more choices or does it impose more limits? And that's the reading. Thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, it kind of does both. My recovery gives me more choices and it imposes limits that I never had before. Like I didn't know what limits were.
Mm,
I didn't know what a limit was. But I love that it says, take a rain check if you don't want to go to a slippery place. And I'm all about that. If I feel and I tell people if you feel that you're going to be uncomfortable and take a drink at whatever the thing is you've been invited to, then you just don't go.
yeah.
Just don't go and be okay with that. And it won't and I think the initial quote is like it won't always be that way. And someday you'll be fine with it and you can be in slippery places. But until then, you know, don't don't do it. No is a perfectly worded
Hmm.
sentence and it's complete.
So when I was reading that, I was thinking about the experience I had at the conference I was telling you about last week, where I was in that one thing where everybody was drinking. So there were actually three different occasions where there was a lot of drinking going on. The first one was insane. It was they call it the pasta event because they serve pasta, but it was mostly people drinking a lot, and it went for like 4 or 5 hours. I can't remember. That was insane. And they took us there by bus. So once I was there,
You
I
couldn't
felt
get
like I
out.
was kind of stuck, right? And it would have been as people I could have called an Uber or something, but everyone would have looked at me. I don't know. I should have done that actually. Now I think about it. But there were other things I just kind of took a rain check on. Nobody missed me. In retrospect, when I'm thinking about how uncomfortable I was at that one event, I should have left. I should have told somebody, you know what, I'm just not comfortable here. I need to go and
Yeah.
left. And nobody would have missed me. And I would have been much happier because I was on edge that entire damn time. It does kind of it does kind of bother me though when I think about being sober for so long and not being comfortable in that situation still. And I was asking myself about that, and I think that one part of the reason that I am is since I've been sober, I don't really put myself in situations like that where I'm around people that are drinking a lot. I've been around people that are drinking a beer or whatever and talking to each other, but they're not getting drunk. But this was a situation where people were drinking several drinks. Many of them were. I just don't put myself in situations like that. And maybe that's a good thing that I don't.
Well, if I mean, I think recovery for me is about learning to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And so it's good that you looked into why you felt so uncomfortable. And
Yeah.
and now you think you would have done better to take care of yourself and just left.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think I would have been. Steven, thanks for stopping by. He's fly fishing in the rain, headed to the next spot. See ya. And seeing you were streaming, thought I'd stop by. Cool. People watching
Happy
us while they're fly
sobriety.
fishing.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. Awesome.
John says, I have been able to go anywhere with anyone since my second year of sobriety and feel okay with everything going on. Seeing drunks drinking is a good reminder for me. Misery refunded. Now I can go, I don't mind going to like play, like, to a club where, there's a musical performance and people are drinking, that doesn't bother me. In fact, I'll be doing that in March. Buddy Guy will be playing here in Kansas City, and I'm gonna get to see him. And is playing at the Uptown Theater where they do serve drinks, but it's not a big deal. No big deal. And that's okay with me. So I don't really mind doing that kind of thing, and it's nice to have that freedom. And I actually started enjoying that pretty early in my sobriety, to be honest with you. Pixnoid, welcome. I don't know if I've ever seen you here before, but it's good to have you. Welcome. If you're new to the live stream, it's really nice to have a new person here. So yeah, that's that part of it. But yeah, the bottom line though is yes, I do have the freedom now to make these kinds of decisions. Like, do I want to go? Do I not want to go? Do I want to go, but maybe let somebody know that I'm not really happy and comfortable being there, and maybe that would help me. Do I need to escape and flee? Whatever. It's nice to have those options, but for me, I just need to pay attention to how I'm feeling. And I'm remembering this therapist that I was talking to on a previous episode that I haven't. Yeah, we just posted it not that long ago. And she said, I can't remember if it was her or someone else, but someone that said, if you're feeling something, to stop and recognize it and name what you're feeling. Because I often just let these feelings go. But if you really stop and think about what it is that, boy, I'm uncomfortable right now, then maybe you can think about doing something about it, you know? And I'm just not real good about that. I just have the feeling of uncomfortableness. I don't really stop to recognize it. And I just either sit with the uncomfortableness and let it continue, or I flee, fight or flee, I guess they say.
Yeah,
Is
I bolt. Bolting is the I bolt.
yeah. So Bree says that she left her sibling's wedding early because of that. My mom never forgave me, but Bree's glad.
Yeah.
And Christine, I pretty much reached a point where I can resist being tempted. Always on guard though against being blindsided. Most everyone I know either doesn't drink or knows that I don't. I feel that way. I don't feel like my sobriety is in danger. I don't feel like being like when I was in that situation, I didn't think I was going to drink. That wasn't my fear. I was pretty sure I knew I wasn't going to drink. That was not a problem at all. I wasn't tempted to drink, and I haven't been for many years. But I still have to take care of myself in other ways. I still have to look out for emotional sobriety, I guess you
Yeah,
want to put it.
that's what I was thinking. Emotionally sound.
Yeah.
Yeah, take care of you.
Because if you don't, I'm not immune from a relapse. If I don't take care of myself and keep this awareness, who knows, and it could be really bad. So, um, don't want that.
No, we don't want that for you. Mhm.
So, please, anyone else, please call in or, make comments. I wrote down some thoughts, about the drinking that I had. I'll just go ahead and read them and see what y'all think about this. I have more power when I'm conscious about being in recovery. So I'm comfortable with abstinence. I don't fear a relapse to drinking, but that doesn't mean I'm not mindful about my sobriety. In those rare situations when I'm around a lot of drinking, I'm on guard. I'm not afraid I'm going to drink, but just being around people who are like that makes me uncomfortable. I think we've already talked about this. So what's my choice? I can learn to become comfortable in these situations. I can let someone know that I'm on edge around so many people who are drinking and leave if necessary. But there's no reason to be miserable. Nobody would have missed me if I was gone. So, that was my thoughts after reading Joe's comments, that I could have taken some other action. I did have that choice. I guess I chose just to stay there and be miserable.
So, was it out of a sense of duty, sort of, like it was a business function and you just felt like you had to be there?
I felt like, well, yeah, I had to be there for sure, and I didn't know what I was getting into. But then once I was there, I was afraid to make a scene and leave, you know. But
I
honestly, if I did, nobody would have noticed or cared.
Yeah, I think I'm really good at slipping out of things
Yeah, I
without
could have
yeah.
slipped out pretty easily.
Mhm.
Although we were on a bus and they say, "Where's John?" But they could have texted me. Okay, Rich says everyone around me knows I don't drink and nobody cares why. So I always have accountability, and everyone would think it was weird if I drank. That's good.
That's really good. Yeah,
Yeah.
kinda same with me. Yeah. I have no problem with it, really. I can go to a bar, I can, when people get really drunk and then they're all that level, then I
Right.
leave because you
That
just
was the situation.
can't
Yeah.
really hang at that point.
No.
Yeah.
No. And I want to tell you something. I am so glad I didn't take a drink from this drink this woman was offering me at this damn thing.
Wow.
It was I thought it was a coffee drink, and I was almost gonna just be polite and taste it, but it wasn't. It was alcohol. It was some kind of espresso martini or something that they were having there. So, but yeah, she was offering it to me like, "Do you wanna taste it?" Because everybody else was tasting it, and I said no because I don't like drinking after people anyway. That's
That
probably
would have
what
been a
saved
great
me.
good reason to say no.
But even if I would have, it wouldn't have been a big deal, but I'm glad I didn't. But there's that kind of shit there, it's like, "What is in that damn thing? I don't know what's in that damn thing." Anyway, I've talked about that too much. Here's something though that I think is pertinent to this topic is the freedom to decide how we wanna spend our time. When you think about it, when we were drinking or whatever addiction that we were engaged in, it took up a lot of our time. I was drunk a lot. I would drink, or I'd be sick from drinking, or I would be spending time with problems from my drinking. It took up a lot of my time, and it really kind of directed my life. My life was a response to drinking and the situations that got me in, basically. That's what life was. And the very first thing I noticed, and I've said this before, but when I stopped drinking is, wow, I have all this time now.
Mhm.
And that's been the most wonderful freedom, and also I'm coming to realize a responsibility of figuring out how to use that time.
Yes, absolutely. I feel I just have so much, uh, more self-esteem. I'm not always worried about, "Did I make an ass of myself at that party?" I don't have to worry or wonder what I did that I need to know about, and that's a
Yep,
huge relief.
yep.
That was a big stressor for me.
And me too, to not have to have that, and to have now things that I like to do, to the passions. Now I have this good problem of figuring out how am I going to use my time to do all the things that I love to do and also spend time with my loved ones and do other things that my other responsibilities that I have. And it is a freedom, and as I said, there's also a responsibility with it because I have an obligation to spend time with some people. I
Mhm.
have an obligation towards my wife, I think, to spend some time with her. I need to do that. And it's good for me to do that anyway. It's not like it's a big deal, but I have to do that. And so but it's a responsibility, and I can neglect that time with her if I spend too much time elsewhere. So I was thinking, it's a good idea every once in a while to do a little spot check to see how I'm spending my time, because it's really easy to let things get out of hand and start spending your time in one more in one area, neglecting other things that are important to you. And I love the smart recovery tools, and they have a couple of tools that work really well together. And one is the hierarchy of values, where you list those things that are what you value, what's important to you in your life. And then they have this lifestyle balance pie where you put down where you're spending your time now, and you check to see if the pie is comporting with what you value, if you're spending your time in the right place. Well, if I did that once in a while just to check on myself, I think I would be more consistent about using my time properly. But that's a big deal for me, is figuring out how to spend my time and not get carried away with one thing.
Yeah. I have that issue with work. I can be a workaholic real easy. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
and
hard for me to turn it off and then just say, "I'm gonna have fun."
yeah,
I usually wanna finish up everything and then have fun, and then you never get to the fun part.
mhm. So Alice says the important thing is now you have awareness that you are free to leave whenever you want. I got to the point where I realized I am the only one holding me back. That's right. Just that's the big deal. Just having this awareness, and I personally will discount it a lot. That oh, I'm not. You know. I'm not really doing that well because, but having the awareness, think back to when I was drinking. Did I have any self-awareness of what the hell I was doing? No, I had none. Zilch. I wasn't interested. Now I am. Now I want to learn from something. I will ask myself these questions. Why is I uncomfortable? And that's good. So
It
yeah,
is.
thank you, Alice, for pointing that out. Christine says that she was at a reception once and someone turned to me and held out a pale, bubbly glass. I must have jumped back 3 feet. Turns out it was Martinelli sparkling apple juice. Funny. Yeah, you never know. That's the whole thing.
You
Is what
never know.
is in that damn thing you're trying to have me drink?
Never know.
But my fear of getting her germs saved me. So Miss C says, being sober gives me the freedom to make healthy decisions. I've also come to understand my limitations and discover my personal boundaries. Mary, you and I were talking about that just before we did this episode, that you went to the board meeting and you made a decision not to, right?
Yeah.
Um, be on the board, that you feel that you're doing enough now.
Mhm. Yeah, I feel I have enough. I do enough quote unquote service
Mhm.
in the ways that I do it, and so I didn't need to take on a whole nother level of uh, responsibility. And I was kind of one. I kind of thought, yes, I wanted to do it on Saturday, and by the time I slept on it and really thought about it, then I didn't raise my hand purposely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good for you.
yeah, and I feel I made the right decision because
Yep.
I don't want to be overcommitted in my life. I want room for fun.
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't get sober not to have fun.
That's
And
right.
a lot of things I do are fun that are service, and, it's all about time, isn't it? Because we only have 24 hours in a day.
That's right.
Mhm.
And I've learned to be a little bit more aware and respectful of that time. And for me, it was a very hard lesson, but it came from overextending myself for a very long period of time and getting so burned out that I was burned out beyond. I can't even describe how awful it was.
Right.
It got me in a really deep depression, and it was awful. But I was able to get stuff off my plate and move away from that. And it was I'm kind of bad sometimes that I just make a clean break, and just move, and you guys are gone. But now I'm kind of moving back and getting to know my friends again. Say, listen, I'm still your friend. I just don't want to do all that work for you anymore. You
Mhm.
know. Um,
Yeah, and it's okay
so
to say that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But I did just kind of avoid it. I kind of need to might kind of move back and get a little bit more balance still with that as well here locally too in my
Mhm.
old home group. I haven't gone there. Ever since COVID. Actually, I think I went back there once. We went back like a year or two after COVID, and I was at that meeting, and then but I haven't been back ever since then. So I could go. I'm not that afraid anymore of COVID. I'm still somewhat cautious, but I think I could go to an in-person meeting once in a while. Rich says, for me, it's freedom. Once I got sober, I realized how I was limited to places where I could have access to alcohol. That's a small world. Yeah.
Mhm. It is a small world.
Mm.
Yeah, especially when you're not present and all you're thinking about is how many drinks you're gonna have.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep. I have this memory of being at my little brother's wedding, and they were serving champagne, and of course I was drinking one after another after another, and I had this embarrassing moment where my sister-in-law says, "Oh, just give him the whole bottle. Just give him a bottle, put it on his table." You know?
Wow.
Um, that's kind of embarrassing, but that's where my mind was. That's where my time was being spent. Was I spending it with her and my brother and the family and other people? I spent it
Mhm.
drinking.
Right.
That was my life. So, that was a constraint that I had because of my addiction to alcohol
Mhm.
that I no longer have. If I go fast forward to my nephew's wedding, my brother's son, I'm sober. I'm able to spend time with him, his wife, his in-laws, my family. It's a completely different scenario,
Mhm.
completely different. Um, that's freedom there to have that difference.
Mhm.
If I had not gotten sober, I wouldn't have had that.
Mhm.
So,
I remember I did not go to my uncle's funeral because I was afraid I would get drunk. I didn't
Mm.
think I could go because we're Irish,
Oh my
and
gosh.
I didn't think I could go and not drink, and
Yeah.
so I just didn't go,
Yeah.
and I've always regretted that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
we have
that
so much in common. I'm like, I think 40% Irish. That's what they said on ancestry.com anyway. We did our DNA test.
yeah, I did too. Like 100.
About 100% Irish? Oh
Uh-huh.
my god, you're in trouble.
Yep.
Jason says, "Sorry I'm late. At an AA retreat. It's not secular, but other than the Lord's Prayer, it's pretty God-free. North Georgia Open. Cool. Glad to see that you're having
Yep.
fun. That's
Yeah,
great.
awesome.
How nice
So
that we had one person fly fishing and another person at an AA retreat and listening to our live stream."
that's awesome.
Mhm. Barb says that, she's been overcommitted. It's a terrible place to be.
Yeah.
Absolutely, it is, and
Yeah.
I've done really good since then of not allowing that to happen. Um, and I did take a break from the podcast in August. That was probably a needed break. It was unplanned, but I did take a little bit of a break and not produce any episodes other than live stream, I think. But other than that, I'm pretty good about um, knowing how much time I want to spend with this and other things.
Uh-huh.
Walker says freedom came for me when I figured out how to make my brain work for me, not against me.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is what it says, like, we're no longer fighting even alcohol.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's a good place to be when you're not trying to make deals with alcohol. I was always trying to make deals. Like, I tried to moderate. I tried to it just it didn't work.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
I
just
know.
wasn't ready to take a white chip yet. I just wasn't. I wasn't ready.
You always knew about AA. You always knew
Always
because
knew
of your
about AA,
parents.
and I knew I was probably an alcoholic, and I kept thinking I had misdiagnosed myself, and there was some loophole that I belonged in, and
Mhm,
that I had a skewed view of what alcoholism was because I grew up in AA. So I was like, "You just think you are because," and then I knew I was for like
mhm.
6 years before I quit. I just wasn't ready.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine not drinking for the rest of my life. I had to reframe that in my head to just for today.
Jay Monty also found out that he's Irish. And, there's nothing wrong with that. It's okay. It's wrong to say that the Irish all drink. They don't.
No, they
And the
do.
British drink just British are just as bad.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that, but
Well.
yeah.
Okay. Um, Another thought that I had, I think we just already talked about it, choosing how to spend my time. How do I want to spend my time today? Thinking about time, thinking about my values, thinking about things that you value, when it comes to time. These are choices and freedoms that we have that we can actually do that. A lot of the stuff I've written, I've already just kind of talked about. Oh yeah, are there any people I need to avoid? Not really. I don't really think about people to avoid. I probably have already made those decisions. I don't really associate with people that I don't want to. So I don't know. Well, I think I actually want to get honest about it. I don't really see a lot of people. I'm pretty much an introvert and I like my time to myself. And really, since COVID, most of my interactions are here online with people or at work with people. And even that's online mostly. So I don't really have that kind of a problem so much anymore. Do you have people that you need to avoid?
Um, there's like within the rooms, I would say
Uh,
my old home group. I don't have to avoid them because they just ghosted me totally.
yeah,
Uh, so I don't. They were friends, but I don't seek them out now. But it's a small town. I haven't run into many of them. But
yeah.
no, I would say if I see some people that I've had an issue with in the rooms, and then it's easy to kind of avoid. But I don't feel as a whole that I have to avoid people, which is part of the freedom for me, which was letting go of resentments and kind of doing the steps helped me kind of uncover all that crap. And then now I make sure that I don't do stuff that I have to make an amends for because I don't want to have to do that. So it keeps me from not stirring up drama that I might have to apologize for later. Because I think avoiding people was because drama was stirred up somehow, or it was because I said something that I didn't think about before I said it. It just like came out, and then I would have to apologize for that later. I'm
Right.
really good about saying the thing that everybody's thinking, but nobody
Mm,
will say.
hmm I like that. I also found a sense of freedom when I actually went through those steps 4 and 5 because I here's what the feeling that I got from that is I felt like I learned from that my parents did the best they could, that they did the best they could. They had problems like I did. They had, stuff passed on to them. And I felt like I wasn't some freak of nature, that I was just a human being and this is the stuff that I'm dealing with like other people are.
Yeah.
And I got a lot of self-acceptance, I guess, from that. Beyond that, though, it also gave me a tool to use going forward, as you said. So I can always do those inventories whenever you know, something's going wrong or I'm not feeling well or whatever about something. Um, and that's a pretty common tool in other programs as well. They just don't call it what they do in AA.
The
Like so in
inventory.
AA, they
Yeah.
call it an inventory or a moral whatever inventory. So Dharma Recovery has a lot of self-reflection in their book. Smart Recovery also, through their tools, has you think about behaviors and actions, not so much like looking at the past, like we do in AA. You look at resentments in the past. In Smart Recovery, it's more of a present thing, and thinking about your what happened, your behaviors, and how you might have behaved differently. That's what this all is, and so that's
Mhm.
a very I think that seems to be a very common thing throughout recovery, and it's almost probably a natural thing because we have that, we have relationships with people and they can make us uncomfortable. That would be a good reason to drink, early on for sure.
Yeah. Mhm.
So I think that makes sense that you would have these tools of trying to understand yourself so that you can react a little bit differently to life
Mhm.
and be free to do that.
And be free to do that. Yes, and not be controlled by having to avoid people.
Yep. Or
Yeah.
being controlled by the resentments, as you said, you
Totally
know?
controlled by the resentments. Absolutely. And those come with expectations. If I any resentment I have is usually because I have an expectation that it would be different, but it's
That
showing up this way, so I resent that.
that can be so hard. It I've had resentments before that have absolutely consumed me and my time, kept me from sleeping, kept me from eating, made me
So
sad and depressed,
so what
whatever.
did you do? How did
Oh,
you handle it?
well, I think eventually I just realized that I can't do this anymore. I can't be like this anymore. And then I stop and I ask myself those questions like what's going on? And I do the process, I guess. But to a certain extent I still react out of pain now. I still shift gears as from pain that I'm feeling as the motivator. I think I can claim some improvement on that, Mary. I don't know about you, but still I can go down a road of a little bit too long of
Mhm.
having some emotional upset of some sort and not
Right,
really taking the time to address it.
right. Like a spiral, sort of,
It's awful. It
or
can
a
be awful.
circular conversation in your head.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. And now and I was just talking about this at a meeting last weekend. I was reading something where they just said, "Just put a tab in it," so that and for me, it's a resentment, a similar conversation that I always have, and I never get the answer to it. I keep thinking if I think about it hard enough, I'll figure it out. And I've realized now to just put a tab in it. And then when I see I'm about to spend 10 minutes in that circular conversation within my head, it takes 10 minutes of my present moment away. And so I just go, okay, we've had that conversation. We didn't find out the answer. So let's move on. And I just redirect my thoughts, redirect. And then I consciously work on not having an expectation of that person, place, or thing. But I could, sit and, we all have conversations in our head of the thing we wish we had said that we didn't think of at the time, and we
Right.
replay it over and over and over again, and while I'm doing that, 10 minutes has gone by
Yep.
in real time, and I lost it
Yep.
having an imaginary conversation.
Yeah.
And, it I I think for me, recovery is about becoming more conscious and making conscious choices and being comfortable with being uncomfortable,
Yeah.
and also
God,
not
that's
not
hard.
af not afraid to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
'Cause I'm usually the person if I'm hurt, I don't want anyone to know that. I'll be fine all day long. I'm just
Mhm.
fine, fine. Everything's great. But if I'm hurt, it's almost like a thing where I don't want to show my weakness that I was hurt. So now I'm learning to be more vulnerable and just saying what's true for me. And meetings are a good place to test that out.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, boy, I'm kind of drawing a blank now. We may have covered this topic, you
Well,
think?
no, I want to ask anybody that's listening, did anybody else go to change the subject, what we were
Yes.
talking about earlier about the convention? Did anyone here go to the convention over the last weekend?
Yeah. Yeah, I'd like
Yeah,
to hear
did
about
anybody
that.
go, and what did you go to? And what did you
I'd love to
think?
hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, or did you think it needed improvement in some areas? Do you wish they'd done this and not done that? Like, if
Also,
oh,
I'm gonna
go ahead.
drop a link to something as well for you guys. I did a episode here recently, the most recent episode we posted, 287, and it was about a book called Addicted in Film,
Oh,
and,
yeah.
oh, it's such a good book.
Oh, yeah. I definitely wanna
Yeah.
I need to get that.
Oh, it's so good. He so what he does here, so this guy he's worked in television and film production for a long time, and he loves film, and he's also in recovery. And one of the first things he did when he got sober is he watched 100 films about recovery in 100 days. So, and some of them he still watches to this day. He gets a lot, he gets a lot of good recovery material out of watching these films. And so he kind of put that in this book. And what I like about this book is it's more than just about them. I'm not trying to sell this book, but it's not just about these movies, but he actually teaches people that who aren't familiar with recovery issues and
Mm.
addiction issues through these movies. And it's just I just even hard to explain, but it's a really good book. But anyway, he's doing a monthly movie watching thing where we'll watch a movie together and then have a Zoom conversation to talk about it. I'm going to put some links in there. We're getting a call now from Stuart, Florida. I'm wondering if this is Al. Who's this? Hello, Stuart, Florida.
Hey, John, this is Al.
I knew it. I knew it. Hi, Al. Good to see you. Or hear from you.
Good seeing you guys. Just I can cover a couple things here. I was always a slave to my stinking thinking. I'd be disturbed over any fucking thing.
Yeah.
I'm disturbed over work. I'm disturbed my relationships, anything, and all that was stinking thinking. I agree with my buddy there, Walker. It's a brain thing for me to get that freedom, and I can go anywhere, do any damn thing, as long as I don't drink and drug. But again, whoever put that conference together, whoever pulled that conference off was absolutely amazing. You deserve that grin, Mary. That was just super, super conference. What I'd like to see is a yearly conference on Zoom. And every 3-4 years, we have a face-to-face. So we can meet all these lovely people, And,
they're
that's
talking
only
about
my opinion on it.
they're talking about that Al having a Zoom conference, and then the next year having in person, and then Zoom, and then like that. So every 2 years in person and every other year Zoom. So there you go.
That's got my vote that's definitely got my vote. But again, it was just amazing. I went to the atheist thing. Sorry, John, I was at the keynote speaker. A bureaucrat from Washington with a hell of a lot of money to spend. These treatment centers are going to buy stock if they sell stock. I mean, they're going to put millions and millions of dollars into treatment. Although, of all the people who got sober, only about 70% of them ever went to treatment.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they're really going to put the money into it.
Yep.
But anyway, I had a great time. I went to 3 or 4 meetings. They're sort of like those alkathon things. If you go to 2 or 3 in a row, I feel like fucking drinking. So I have to watch a few that I enjoyed, and I really enjoyed the atheists. Those guys
good.
are. I'm right there with John H. People hate him or they love him. I think the guy's great. And the guy from Paris, I forget his name, that did the
John.
slideshow. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And he was just as whacked as John Huey. I
Yeah.
thought it was terrific. But
I
great
thought so
job,
too.
Mary. Great job.
Well, thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah, I liked the afternoon with the
That's
atheist
a
too. I thought it was well done. I like John's presentation, John C's presentation, I think the most.
right.
Well, Vic was they were all good. Vic was very smooth. Remember he did that sitting in his apartment in New York. I've been there, by the way. And he had a very nice presentation that he did. And then I think it was John
Mhm.
C from Paris. And I like John because he had the bullet points of the things that are important to him in sobriety. Very simple. And John Huey, I've talked to so often, I probably was spaced out mostly while he was talking. But it was a good presentation. I thought it was well done myself. And then there were a lot of people that were contributing afterwards.
Mhm.
So yeah, I
And
agree.
one more thing, just one more thing. And for me, my vote is Asheville. Hell, I can drive up to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My vote
You
too.
know, I
Yeah.
mean, you know, if you got someplace too far, most people, you know, they pack the bag, the hotel room, the whole thing can get a little out of hand for the East Coast people anyway.
Yeah.
But there's a big crowd in the West Coast would like to probably see it in Phoenix or something.
Mm-hmm.
But again, great job hanging up. Love you all. Bye bye.
Good to hear from you.
Thanks.
Thanks for calling.
So we were talking about in the board meeting that we wanted it to be an international conference, and Cyril from London said, well, then what about having it in Europe? Because they're having a hard time in Europe, especially Poland, being listed even in the intergroup for any secular meetings. There's
Mm-hmm.
more of a pushback there apparently than here. So they were like, well, what about us here if it's international? So I think that there's a lot to be said for regional conferences as well,
Yes.
to have less huge every 2 years and have more regional to include everyone. I would love to have a regional one in Ireland or
Mm-hmm.
in Poland to
Mm-hmm.
to reach out and give support in those places where they're not welcomed with open arms in their AA community.
Mm-hmm. So Missy went to the keynote, the afternoon with the atheist, the dopamine presentation, Marty Mann, Beth H meeting. She did a lot, and the Australian meeting. I really learned a lot and enjoyed it. That's great.
Oh yeah, listen, that Marty Mann, thank you for bringing that up. I totally forgot that. That was the second time that I had seen that, and it is, if you haven't seen it, it is amazing. She does such a great job, and she has so much joy in her heart about sharing it, and she's such a good speaker, and just the history of it, the pictures, it was fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely wonderful, and it's important work that she's doing, and I appreciate her for it.
Well, I need to listen to that because,
Oh, it's so
I said,
good.
I'm a fan of Marty Mann, and I would love to learn
You would
more
learn
about
things
her.
that you didn't even know at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
wonderful.
she's really an important figure in the history of alcohol recovery and making people more aware about it.
Yeah.
Jay would like to see one in Europe. Tried to get Vitek on the board, but nominations were closed. Yeah.
Well, we did get a Polish person on the board after that.
Oh, good.
So thank you for putting that name in. And then when I came later, I found out that there was a Polish lady that is on the board now.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
So that is going to happen. And I would, like to see more regional meetings. And also there's going to be a planning meeting on November 13th, which is a Sunday at 6:30 Eastern, which I'll put on this chat. We're talking about having a women's secular AA conference, International Women's Secular AA Conference. So if that sounds good to you,
Wow.
then the first planning meeting is next weekend, right? Today's
Yep.
it's like
Today's the
next
5th.
weekend, the 13th at 6:30, and I'll put that in. Well, I'll have to give it to you, John, to put it in the
Okay.
chat because I can't do it from here.
Okay. I can
Yep,
do that.
I can do that for you.
Well, I'm glad that the conference went well and people seem to enjoy it.
Yeah, it was great. And the We're Not All Egomaniacs was a good one
Mm-hmm.
too. That Beth sort of led. That was a lovely meeting. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was.
Of
But
all
I
the
did.
secular recovery books, hers is pretty unique. It stands out, I think.
Yes, agreed. Totally agreed. But I did not go to Australia. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you couldn't be in 3 places at once.
No, it's too much.
Yeah,
Lot to do.
a lot to do, but you can always listen to it when the recordings come out, and they'll be on the secularaa.org.
Mm-hmm.
They're working on them right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're putting in the information for the board meeting?
Yeah, I'm looking for it as we speak.
Okay.
I'll get it to you as soon as I can figure out where I put it.
Okay.
Yep, it's on its way. Okay, here it is. I got it. I'm gonna text it to you, John.
Okay.
Okay. So, anybody else have anything to say about the conference or anything at all about your sobriety today or
Let's
anything?
see.
Or any improvements that could be made in we're going to be doing an after a rehash meeting with the planning committee to talk about what worked and what didn't work.
Oh, I'll have to put it in later. For some reason, I'm not getting that message.
No, I haven't sent it yet.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm working on it real quick.
No problem. So, oh yeah. So anyway, not trying to push this book on you, but it's a good one. And that movie thing I'm looking forward to. I put a link in there to join the movie club. And it's basically once a month, you'll talk about a movie and a movie related to recovery. Jay Monty, what's the question about when? Are you talking about the planning meeting? I think is when she's saying that to me now is what she's doing.
Okay, so it's November 13th at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. And I'm putting the password and all that right now in a text to John. And the Zoom ID number, hold on, getting that, is 842-5037-1076.
842-5037-1076.
And then the password is recovery.
Capital R.
No, lowercase. There we go. It's on your phone, John.
All right.
It's the beginning planning committee, and some of the sober she devils after this conference, they were like, I want to do a women's conference.
Okay.
And so I'm like, I'll be in on that. So if you're interested at all, come to that planning committee meeting.
Cool. Okay. And I put the information in there in the chat room, so anybody will see it. All right. Well, I think we did a pretty good job covering this. Thank you again, Mary, for joining me, and thank you everybody out there for joining us and listening and contributing. And thank you, Al, for calling in. I always appreciate the phone calls. I don't have the outro music because I was messing with my equipment, so I'll have to put that in there next week. So we'll have to say goodbye without any music. So thank you, thank you, everybody. It was great to be here, and we'll be back again next week with another live stream. Y'all take care now.
Bye.